who is in charge now.
Sorry.
Remember, we just let somebody out of prison who was in Honduras. We tracked him down, but he was prosecuted under the blue team.
Yeah. All right, we're there, right?
We're there.
Okay, cool beans. Welcome, everybody. Who do we have online? Nobody today, huh?
I think we might be ahead of it.
I don't see anybody, so let's go around and do self-introductions. We'll go this way. Conlon?
Hi, Tom Collin here, representing the Sonoma County Conservation Coalition.
Dan Starter representing Sonoma County Alliance.
Kelly McNerney, League of Women Voters, and substituting for Rick this month.
Iris Weaver, Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition.
David Harris, Sonoma County Transportation Land Use Coalition.
Go this way.
Angela Cantu, Chair of the Transit Paratransit Coordinating Committee for SCTA.
Wow, that's a lot.
Just
Terry
rolls right off the
Glazer
tongue.
for the North Bay Electric Auto Association.
Tom Banning, District 3.
Musa Bassi representing the Santa Rosa Chamber.
Okay, John Bly, I'm representing the Engineering Contractors Association. And let's go to the back there.
Desiree Perez. Oh, thank you. I'm Desiree Perez with the City of Santa Rosa.
Nice to meet you.
Krista Siegenthaler, City of Santa Rosa. Capital Project.
Tarina Wilson, City of Santa Rosa.
Chris Barney, SCTCA.
Steph Britt, SCTCA.
Dave Rippert, SCTCA.
Brenton Hare, SCTCA.
Shauna Gauze, SCTCA.
Adam Garcia, SCTCA.
Dana Trey, SCTCA. Chris Cohn, SCTCA.
And Ross Clendenin, SCTCA.
And Mark Soylan, representing District 2.
Wonderful. Thank you guys all for coming. Glad you guys could fight through the snow and the rain and get here. Any public comment on items not on the agenda? Well, I thought you were raising your hand. You're just coughing. Okay, no worries. I thought you had something to say there. Gosh darn it. We don't have Dwayne DeWitt tonight. So no comment. All right. So seeing none, we'll move on to administrative items and the January 26th meeting minutes. Ross?
Any members? Yeah, bringing the meeting minutes from the previous meeting on January 26th for approval. Please let us know if you have any changes or feedback.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. I just noticed under section 4.3, Musa asked a good question about the $77 million in the bank and I don't think this characterizes it correctly. It says here in the draft minutes, Mr. Harris stated that he's not aware how much is allocated to projects, but because it is all in Highway 101 fund, it will be paid out through Highway 101 programs. And I went back and I looked at the videotape and Brendan didn't say that. He said it was in local streets as well as in 101 and other programs. He didn't have the project specifics. And then later David clarified that there was some distinction in the amount. So my edit to this would be to say simply that it's all in the Measure M fund categories or something more generic than that. So we don't misrepresent in our minutes what was actually said.
Sounds good. We will make that change.
Thank you.
Was there a distinction between the Go Sonoma and Measure M?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they are.
The long thing.
Though Go Sonoma has come into place after Measure M, there are quite a few differences.
The biggest one is Go Sonoma doesn't have any Highway 101 funds.
Or smart too, doesn't it?
Or smart.
Yeah.
not directly.
Yeah. Okay, excellent pickup there.
So we will make that change.
Thank you.
Can I just add, I think there also was, a discussion, to look into utilizing, the available funds, for other projects rather than staying, in the bank,
I'm not sure I fully understood your comment.
Mainly like there was a discussion to utilize, the available funds to fund other projects, to expedite them rather than, keeping, the money in the bank,
Right, and that's obviously subject to the constraints of the original measure and the board's discretion where it has it. So I just want to be sure we're not rewriting this history in our minutes here because it had, those decisions haven't been made to, for example, reallocate all monies to 101. That has not been made.
Clear as mud, how you need to redo the minutes, do you think?
I think we've got the info. We're going to take a closer look at, I'll go through that section, make sure it's better represented.
So let's entertain a motion that's conditional if we could.
I'll make a motion as amended,
Okay.
to approve the minutes.
I'm happy to second that. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on the minutes?
Well, I would note that it does every month show the attendance as just for that meeting, and then we get the report for the last 6 months. And this topic of what we're doing to fill vacancies on, these agencies that haven't had anybody here in 6 months. And just, when that's coming back to
I'll touch on that topic in just
later, you can do that.
No, just a moment. I will. Yeah, once we do the minutes.
I don't know, that has been controversial, hasn't it, over the last few years? But yeah, duly noted, David. Thank you. All right, call for the question, or anybody in opposition to the motion that is conditional upon fixing the minutes? Seeing none, motion carries. All right.
Yeah, the other, and it's not agendized, so I don't want to get too into it, but just in reference to your comment, the new legislation SB 707 modifications to the Brown Act. We are currently working with legal, and we will be bringing some recommendations to the board in March, which will then come here, and potentially some significant changes, which will make attendance much easier. Theoretically, I don't want to move ahead of ourselves, but I think it could really kind of solve that attendance issue. I don't want to say once and for all, but it could make some real progress. So I don't want to get hung up on that, but just a preview. Item 3.2 is a preview as well, which is we are noticing that we will be holding elections for chair and vice chair of this committee at the March meeting. So we are required to notice it, and then at the following one. So just putting that out there.
So at this meeting, we're not taking any action on any of the folks that have had sketch attendance.
No, and that's not, that's
okay.
Yeah, no.
Good enough. Thank you very much. And you've already talked about the chair, vice chair election notice, which is in March. So we are moving quickly. Hello. And let's see, why don't we go ahead before we get too far into it? And you are, sir? Hi, John. How you doing? John Ryan? Yeah. And why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody again?
Stephanie Elliott, 5th District.
All right. So with that, we're on to the measure items, Go Sonoma project presentation, SCTCA, City of Santa Rosa.
Chair, good afternoon, members. Shauna Gauze, SCTCA. As we do every month, we are bringing you project updates from Measure M and Go Sonoma. And this month, we will be presenting on projects that SCTCA has implemented and on projects that the City of Santa Rosa has implemented, which is why we're being joined by Santa Rosa staff. So I will kick it off with a brief discussion, since it's already delivered, of the excuse me, of the 116, 121 intersection improvements. That's what we call that. Oh, I lost it. Don's gonna pull that presentation back up for me.
I'm sorry.
Dawn is gonna pull that presentation back up for me. There it is. Thank you, Dawn. All right, am I pointing it here or up there? Which direction do I point the clicker?
Bounce it off the wall. Generally.
Just press the button, see what happens.
Bounce it off the wall.
There we go.
Just point it at Mark. He'll.
Huh, it's like a wand.
They advance the slides.
Okay, so you are all, most of you should be fairly familiar with this intersection. The project that has already been completed was converting the existing intersection on 116 and 121 and Bono Road, which was the local road, to a multi-lane roundabout. We relocated the park and ride lot from the southeast corner to the northeast quadrant. And we added a shared use path and related facilities for bikes and peds within the project area, which was just the intersection. We didn't add any additional bike lanes, but we did add those facilities to the intersection itself. Just to refresh your memory, just in case you weren't placing that in your brain, 116, also known as Arnold Drive, and 121, also known as Fremont Drive, and to the west is Bono Road. And this is a relatively blurry and yet best we could do plan of the improvements that were made. So we changed a single blinking red light intersection to a multi-lane roundabout and provided, as you can see in that northeast quadrant, a new parking ride lot. And we're really pleased with how it turned out. This is a simulation of the final project. You've all seen this before. So this is a representation of the delivery schedule that we used while we were trying to construct the project, and before was we were getting through the environmental and right-of-way phases. We awarded the project to OC Jones for $10.6 million. Construction began in 2024, and we finished it in the end of 2025. This is an overview of the funding that has happened, just a little bit more than $27 million. We are still working on the mitigation for some of the project. So there were jurisdictional ditches, roadside ditches that were impacted when we constructed the intersection. So we are replacing not in kind, but we are mitigating for that jurisdictional take, plus some red-legged frog upland dispersal habitat. So we are still working on that. We have secured a conservation easement with a local farm, which is not far from the project area, just a little over a mile, I think, from where the project area is. And we have entered into a conservation easement with them. So the mitigation has still to be implemented, but we are continuing to work on that. That is the only real outstanding portion of this project.
That involve moving frogs to the new site?
No, sir. It involves establishing in conservation in perpetuity habitat for them, should they, and some wetland habitat.
And that's to the east of the existing project.
That's correct. So these are some construction photos during construction. The photo on the left is the project we were able to, or the contractor was able to put up K-rail and allow for construction of the center of the roundabout while traffic continued to flow. So we were able to put that circle up with the K-rail, and then construction continued through the winter wet months, which was really a value added savings to the project, which was really great. And it also made it so that the impact to the traveling public was a lot less.
Shauna, just curious, where would the jurisdictional ditches be? Would they be up the page, down the page, or to the left?
Well, in this photo, they would be in the bottom left.
Okay.
But they were, you can't even see them anymore because they've already
Yeah, okay.
put in where the park and ride lot was going to
Thank
go.
you.
So, And then that photo on the right is a fabulous photo from January during a very rainy day when they had substantially completed the construction of the center of the roundabout. So you can see there are some lumpy things in there that are actually boulders, which are actually quite nice. Now we like them a lot.
Looks a little better than it does in that picture.
It does.
Those boulders were born and raised in Sonoma County, by the way.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
That's by you.
Yeah, we've got a much better picture in the lower right-hand corner of this slide. You can see them. They look a lot better in this photo with the blue sky and the green trees. and everything.
It's a cute story. If I could interrupt, the landscape architect that was responsible with Caltrans and OC Jones, the contractor, was out there and literally placed the stones exactly the way that she wanted them.
Yeah.
To be oriented.
Yes, it was
Can you
very hand-picked.
Yeah, they were. Can you explain to the crowd why the boulders are even there besides just for decoration?
Well, part of it is to prevent people from driving right through that section because that does happen. I can tell you that there's a traffic circle in Petaluma where they have had to replace trees on a number of occasions because people drive right through the center.
It's a major safety
It is.
issue.
It is. So those are great. And it also simulates a dry creek bed. It's actually quite aesthetic. I like it personally. So you can see there's some more construction photos here. And then this is substantially complete. It looks like there's still some striping that needed to be done, and you can see that there's still K-rails shown here, but this was a substantially completed project area, and you can see it really showcases the dry creek bed aesthetic that you can in the center of the roundabout there with the larger boulders on either side, the big red truck apron, which allows for trucks, large semi-tractor trailers, and the fire engines to go through there, although fire chief does sometimes disagree with me on that. And he should know, but I digress. So this is a photo of our ribbon cutting, and we are all very proud of having completed this project. And this, Dawn, if you would do me the honors of clicking that YouTube page, this is oh, there you go.
This is a drone photo.
It is in fact. Oh, it might take a minute to get there.
While we're waiting, I think we need some of those boulders over in Rankin Valley in front of Oliver's and.
Say the word.
But while we're waiting, are there any questions about the completion of the project or how Measure M was spent?
Two questions.
Sure.
One is, how's it working out? And the second is, what measures do we use to determine how it's working out?
Yes.
That's a good question. Oh, here we go. Thank you, Dawn. There it is. You can see this is operation. I like this this drone footage. It's a little bit jerky, but you can see that there are trucks parked. You can see how maintenance trucks will actually use the center of the roundabout, stay out of traffic, and be able to access the center for maintenance and so forth without having to impact traffic itself. It also allows you to see how traffic operates through the intersection. I suspect that Caltrans will continue to monitor the volumes in order to determine if there are issues. We haven't had any complaints, issues, or other difficulties brought up. Everyone seems to be fairly pleased with it. I mean, anecdotally, I can say everyone seems to be very pleased with how the traffic circle is operating, which is great. We're really happy with it.
This is actual or simulation?
Yeah, no, this is actual. This is drone footage of the intersection in operation.
The big difference in this roundabout from others that I've seen, if you could go back, I don't know if you can go back to that or not, is that usually to turn right, you're in the roundabout stream and they've got a median
We do have a
strip
slip lane, yeah.
kind of separates it. So that if there was going to be any confusion, I would think that would be where it might.
Yeah, I haven't
And-
had, We've had some complaints about drainage that Caltrans is working on, but the issues are outside of the project area and downstream from what we can control. So there's really
Huh,
nothing we
okay.
can do about it. Caltrans did ask us to investigate, and we did. We asked our engineers to look at it, and it turns out that it's beyond our control and beyond the scope of the project. So that's really the only issue that has been brought up, but there have not been any operational issues brought up that I am aware of.
Did they bring those medians in as a calming effect so that there was less traffic in the actual circular part? Okay.
Yeah, it's also intended, it's built rather large so that should we need to in the future, we can add, so we have the project area, we can enlarge and put in additional lanes
Yeah.
should the volume necessitate that. We don't anticipate that. It's operating fine, just the way it is right now.
And if you need more boulders, Mark's got them.
Mother Nature will make more.
So
Question here.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, are the crosswalks complete and have there been any changes in pedestrian protection since our last presentation?
The crosswalks are not complete in this photo. The signage and striping was not completed as of when this drone footage was taken, but they are completed now. And I haven't heard of any incidents or
So
concerns.
it's a flashing light at each crossing?
I believe there is a flashing beacon.
So there's a flashing beacon at the from park.
Right.
Yeah, so the rapid flashing beacon, which is being maintained by the county, goes from the park and ride lot at the top of the image to the northwest corner of the intersection. So across basically the 2-lane section of the roundabout. The other lanes of the roundabout do not have a flashing beacon. And that may be because of the refuge islands that are on multiple sections of there, and you only have to cross 1 lane of traffic at a time. But I'm not quite sure why there was only flashing beacons done on that other section. Just my guess that it was done because that's a 2-lane section they're crossing there.
Tom Banning, you good with that? Okay, Mr. Conlon?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's important for folks to realize that the prior condition here was that this was extremely congested on peak days, backing up over a mile into Sonoma in the afternoons oftentimes. And so anecdotally, because we haven't had enough time to really understand how it will function, I've seen and heard lots of quibbles about, everything's changing because there's construction. And there was also additional construction to the south of a bridge adjacent to this project. And so it's been a little difficult for older drivers in Sonoma to adjust to. I'm so glad to hear there haven't been any collisions through this transition process. And looking forward to some metrics as was suggested on how we might measure the performance of these things going forward, because the hours of delay I would hope are really dramatically reduced. So I don't know that yet, though.
Is that a Caltrans issue, the metrics? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in front.
Yes.
Is it? Okay, so that's not us, that's Caltrans.
Ultimately, it was a state highway operation and protection program project. So it is a Caltrans facility. It is Caltrans responsibility for maintenance, other than the center aesthetics of the roundabout and the green treatments in the park and ride lot. Those are being maintained by the county.
Thank you. Go ahead, sorry.
So with the recent flooding that happened in December, there was no problems here?
As I said, there were some drainage issues, but
But
it
not there.
not,
Okay.
well, it did occur in the project area. The drainage issues were happening in the project area, but it was because of something downstream. So it was not something that we could control.
And then I love it driving this way. I mean, it feels very different and it feels very great. And I remember the last time I drove, I thought, God, how do you cross the street? And then I did see the crosswalks and that was reassuring. Do you have any bicycle information? Because it still seems a little intimidating to ride your bike.
So it is striped for sharing should cyclists who are knowledgeable and comfortable being in traffic want to use that way. However, if they do not, the facilities are there for them to use it as a pedestrian to walk their bicycle through those
And
crosswalks.
do you know about the usage of it?
We do not have counts right now, but I can tell you that before the project was built, there was not a lot of volume. We did look for that, for those metrics, and there was not a lot of volume out there.
And I can't tell from the photo on what's there for lighting.
The lighting was also replaced. There is lighting specifically for the roundabout itself and for the park and ride lot. And they're at different levels, so that it's impactful for the drivers and or the pedestrian level.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Very. And
This
then
isn't a
sorry.
question about this one, but it's roundabouts. I just saw a note about a roundabout at Green Valley and 116. Are we involved in, is Measure M or Go Sonoma involved in that?
Measure M or Go Sonoma are not involved in that project. However, we are trying to partner with Caltrans because they are trying that project through the shop.
Angela, sorry.
Yeah, you said that there's hasn't been any complaints. How would you get complaints if there were?
They would come into Caltrans and then Caltrans would let us know. We meet regularly with Caltrans. We talk about cooperative agreements. We talk about all sorts of things with Caltrans on a regular basis. And if there were issues, it would be brought to our attention as well as theirs. It would go through their public information office. Or sometimes if people just take it upon themselves to call us directly. With that, I will hand it over. Oh, yes.
Just a quick question. Does Caltrans start to put permanent monitoring equipment in intersections, or they have to, if they're gonna get data, they have to
They
send
would
something
have
out?
to, usually what they do is use the tube counters, that sort of thing. So it's something that they would have to implement and get out there. It's not going to be their regular. With that, I'm going to hand it over to David because we still have to hit him and
Got it.
the city.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members. Dave Ripto, Director of Project and Programming here at SCTCA, talking about our next project, the US 101 Hearn Avenue Interchange. This is a partnership project with the city of Santa Rosa, who was responsible for the design, and Caltrans responsible for the construction of the project. With us, we have Desiree Perez and Krista Siegenthaler from the city, who can answer questions that I may not know the answers to, but I'll go ahead and do the presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So this is the culmination of a three-phase project. Phase one did, I believe, the widening on Santa Rosa Avenue at Hearn Avenue that was done in 2010. Phase two, I believe, was the widening that was done west of the interchange. And then phase three is the interchange itself. It started a long time ago with planning. Environmental started in 2014. And now here we completed construction in December 2025. Here's a graphic of the completed project. It includes replacing the existing 2-lane overcrossing with a new 4-lane overcrossing and greatly expanded bicycle and pedestrian facilities. The old overcrossing didn't have continuous sidewalks, and now we have protected bicycle facilities on both sides of the overcrossing, along with a new 2-lane off-ramp from southbound US 101. Before, there used to be a lot of queuing on southbound 101 from people trying to get off the freeway and get on Hearn Avenue, and now this is really operating a lot better than used to. I should note that this project will connect in the future with the Smart Trail to the west through a separate project that is being designed by the city using federal funds that should be going to construction in the next year or two. Just to give you an orientation of where the project is, this is really kind of the linchpin in connecting a lot of the city's planned active transportation facilities. The project helps connect with the commercial areas on the east side of US 101 with the residential areas on the west side of 101. And it connects a lot of the historically disadvantaged communities of Santa Rosa, including the Roseland area of South Santa Rosa. Here you can see some of the issues that used to occur with the old overcrossing. As I mentioned before, it was only 1 lane in each direction. There wasn't sufficient capacity for vehicles, and that led to queuing back onto mainline Highway 101 during the peak hours. The congestion lack of shoulders delayed emergency response times and prevented transit from being able to operate across the overcrossing. and there weren't any continuous sidewalks or bike facilities. There was also non-standard vertical clearance over 101, and the bridge railings were not crash worthy. Here you can see some of the issues on the old overcrossing. You can see people had to walk through weeds to get across the overcrossing. You had bicycle and pedestrians squeezing onto the narrow sidewalk to try to get past each other. And you had people driving in and out of traffic to get around the backups on 101. This project went through a number of design iterations over the years as we tried to come up with funding for it. Originally, the city's design included just standard 6-foot sidewalks and 6-foot bike lanes. And over the years, our knowledge of what a good bicycle facility would be has changed over the years. At one point, there was a plan to instead do a 10-foot class 1 bike path on one side of the overcrossing. However, the city was not able to secure funds for that. We partnered with the city and Caltrans and came up with a new design that included a 2-way protected bike facility on one side of the overcrossing on the south side that would include both eastbound and westbound bicyclists, and then a westbound class 2 bike lane on the north side that would be 6 foot wide. This was designed that went out to construction, and based on feedback we got from the community, we worked with Caltrans to see if we could improve that further. There was some state guidance that was finalized last year that allowed Caltrans to approve having narrower travel lanes than 11 feet. And so we were able to have some sections of the overcrossing where the inside lane is only 10.5 feet wide. That allowed us to narrow the 5-foot bike lane, the 6-foot bike lane down to 5 feet, and add a 2-foot 4-inch buffer with channelizers to protect that westbound bike lane. We had to do some minor modifications to the median and some of the drainage during construction, but we were able to get that approved by Caltrans and get it constructed by the contractors, Gelati Construction. Here you can see the overall cross-section of that change order that we were to approve, and you can see in the lower right, very small, but you can see that we did have a section of 10.5-foot travel lanes. This is new statewide guidance that Caltrans is allowing on certain facilities with certain design standards. And I think this is probably one of the first facilities in the entire state to be able to do this. Talking about some of the benefits of the project, it is improving local traffic circulation and regional traffic operations on 101. That's allowing improved first responder access and will allow Santa Rosa City Bus to change some of the routes to have a new east-west route going across 101 here. And that's improving access for the public to goods, services and jobs, recreation, schools, and educational opportunities. And overall, the core need of the project is to improve the safety of the facility. Here you can see the schedule. As I mentioned earlier, the environmental phase started back in 2014 and was completed in 2016. The design phase was extended as we worked with the city to try to secure construction funds for the project. But we began construction with bidding in the fall of 2023, and then we started breaking ground in 2024. We had a number of stages of the project, but we were able to shift traffic to the new northern half of the overcrossing in the summer of last year, and then we fully opened the project to traffic in November of 2025 using an acceleration change order to have the contractor be able to finish work before the winter. The project was substantially completed in December, and we're working on punch list items right now. Here you can see some photos from last year of the initial girder placement for the new northern half of the overcrossing. There was a lot of nighttime closures on 101 that were done to allow this to happen, and traffic was detoured on Santa Rosa Avenue. Here you can see the girders being lifted into place on the left, and the construction of the new embankments and completed northern half of the overcrossing throughout the rest of these photos. Later on in the summer, we demolished the old overcrossing while traffic had been shifted to the new northern half of the overcrossing, and that allows us to start construction on the new southern half of the overcrossing. Here's what the project looked like as of December when we had our ribbon cutting ceremony. We took some drone shots, and you can see the new 2-way class 4 bike facility on the right-hand side of the image, and the new buffered and soon to be installed with bollards westbound class 4 bike lane on the left-hand side of your image there. You can see there's 4 lanes for true lanes, and then the left-hand turn pocket from westbound Hearn Avenue to Corby Avenue is greatly lengthened. Here you can kind of see over 101 with a new 2-lane exit ramp from southbound 101. And then you can see kind of the details on the architectural treatments of the overcrossing and that new fencing that was installed. Here's a little image of where we had our ribbon cutting ceremony at the auto detailing place. We're happy to be able to have a lot of participation from community leaders, including Eris as part of the ceremony, and it was a great event that day.
I was looking to see if you had caught, anybody caught me on the bike lane, but not yet.
Overall, the total project budget was 43.675 million. We are lucky that the bid from July Construction came in under the estimate, and so we will ultimately have some project savings. But as we work with Caltrans in the next couple of years, we'll be reconciling the numbers, and we don't quite know what the savings will be yet. But those will be distributed proportionally across the different funding sources, which included funds from the city, 17.2 million for a Measure M, and then a variety of state funds, including 3.4 million from the State Transportation Improvement Program, 5 million from local partnership formulaic funds, and then 8.6 million of local partnership competitive funds from SB1. Just to give some more information, the city has a website on Measure M projects, and I'm happy to take any questions on this presentation before we shift to the next project.
Very good. Tom?
I just want to say, David gave us a pretty level-headed presentation, but he should be doing chest bump with somebody right now. This is really a major accomplishment, and the evolution of this project's design is remarkable. I drove over it for the first time a couple of weeks ago now, and I got teary-eyed, frankly, when I did it, because it's such an important addition to that part of the city. So I just want to be sure you got your work is appreciated. So thank you.
It's a delight to bicycle on too.
I'll just say something real quick, and that is that the Engineering Contractors Association has chosen this project to be the recipient of their 2025 Bridge Award, which is all based on safety and contributing to the public-private sector, bridging those gaps and so forth. Great project, checks all the boxes. You guys did a great job. City of Santa Rosa as well. Thank you. Yeah.
I just want to say that I've only been discussing this project for 15 years at this meeting, and I was so pleased to how quickly it was constructed versus the discussion points for the 15 years that I've been here. So great job, well done.
Any boulders on this one?
No, but the biofiltration soil was also born and raised in Sonoma County.
Good job. Nice job, SCTCA too.
Boulders are coming.
Boulders are coming. Okay, great.
Thank you. Now we'll turn it over to the city for the next presentation.
Okay.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Krista Siegenthaler. I'm the Deputy Director of Capital Projects with the City of Santa Rosa. Unfortunately, the project manager for this project couldn't be here today, so you get me. This will be a very brief update on the Santa Rosa Creek Trail access at Dutton Avenue. So this is the project location, Santa Rosa Creek Trail, West Side Access, Dutton Avenue. The project is basically to build the bike trail or the multi-use path from Dutton Avenue down to the Creek Trail. This fits into our larger goal of developing bicycle and pedestrian improvements along Santa Rosa Creek. And this project closes a critical gap in the city's bike and pedestrian network. So just a brief overview of the project. The work includes retaining wall, fencing and guardrails, tree removal, also tree planting, a storm drain culvert, But the core of the project is the ADA compliant multi-use path, which will connect the west side of North Dutton Avenue down to the northern segment of the Santa Rosa Creek Trail. So this is the plan view in the design. The Creek Trail and the Santa Rosa Creek are along the bottom of the screen there. Dutton Avenue is on the top, and the multi-use path kind of curves its way down. So this project has been around for quite some time. We're getting close to, we have 100% design, and we're getting close to construction, but I did want to give an update on just where we are at. So currently the schedule as shown here is on track, but we are still working through some challenges. The tribal monitoring agreement was routed to tribes last week, so that's the last step in that process. We're in the process of obtaining water agency easement. We have a verbal agreement, so that should be coming soon. And then we need a building permit for the retaining wall. That will be coming, but they're waiting on the easement agreements. And then the last piece, which is probably the biggest challenge we've had, is the right-of-way process with the parcel, the owner of the parcel through which the path will go. We're basically moving through the eminent domain process. Back in November, we had a resolution of necessity at council. And we're moving forward with eminent domain. This process is expected to take about 6 months. So the earliest we could go to construction is probably 6 to 9 months from now. So hopefully I have start date of 2026 on the schedule there. Hopefully that will still happen, but we are looking at probably the end of this year. And then lastly, just a brief slide on the cost. The engineer's estimate for this project is currently at $850,000. And that concludes my update. Are there any questions?
It looked like on the map that Dutton was going east and west. You see that the north is going up and Dutton Street is going east and west. And
So Dutton
Dutton
is
Avenue
going
is to the right. Right.
this way here.
Right.
Dutton.
Well,
So-
Dutton Street, which is at right angle to Dutton Avenue, right?
Right, Duncan Street. Yeah,
Oh, it's Duncan Street. Okay,
Mhm.
hard to see.
yeah.
So no more scrambling up the mud along the slope there.
Right. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Brenton, I think you're up, right? Go Sonoma and Measure M financials.
Hello all. Juan, would you please pull up my PowerPoint? Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
I am Brenton Hare, the Fiscal and Administrative Analyst for the SCTCA, and I'm here to present the Go Sonoma and Measure M financials for the month ending January 31st. This one will be a little more momentous than our last one, which was pretty quiet. So the order of materials that you received financial packet-wise is the same as usual: the Go Sonoma balance sheets, Go Sonoma cash flow reports, Measure M balance sheets, and Measure M cash flow reports. Same files as before. You might notice that the balance sheets look a little different. Our bookkeeper was out last week, so I ran the reports. We use different reporting tools. There are the same numbers, but the format might be slightly different. The information is the same. So the revenues for Go Sonoma, we'll start with the broad overview: $2,507,000 in change in January, and year-to-date revenues for Go Sonoma are now $13,230,000. The expenses in Go Sonoma were $4,819,000. This is a large increase over the prior month because we did finally get out excitedly our first full quarter for the year of the Go Sonoma Roads and Transit payments. So the year-to-date expenses are $6,695,000, and Go Sonoma is sitting on a cash balance of $10,370,000. There are two notes here, special topics. These are to address comments from last time. The Measure M to Go Sonoma loan balance, that's the first item of discussion. So Go Sonoma received a loan from Measure M in 24-25, and that was to allow some projects that had been planned to begin immediately before all of the tax revenues were received. And the balance of that loan is currently $1,847,550. So if that loan were repaid today, Go Sonoma's cash balance would be down to $8,523,000. I didn't list here the impact that that would have on the Measure M cash balance just because it moves it from $78 to $80 million. The smaller change there. Yeah. The next thing to note is the Go Sonoma admin fund cash balance. It's a negative $103,000. This isn't surprising. In consultation with the accountant, when the Go Sonoma program went live, we paid back the election cost loan that Measure M, or through SCTA, made to Go Sonoma for the election costs. It was $304,000. The loan repayment came out of Go Sonoma admin. And so Go Sonoma admin is sitting with a negative balance, and it should be until close to the end of the year when it will be positive again, assuming all of our tax payments come in as expected. But this is not an alarming negative cash balance. All right, so we'll move on to Go Sonoma revenues. As we said, a little over 2.5 million. The largest part was sales tax revenues, and then there was also $108,451 in interest. And here are the year-over-year changes for the Go Sonoma tax revenues. Just the note that these are a combination of Measure M and Go Sonoma for the look back year because Go Sonoma hasn't been in place for an entire year yet. So the taxes received in January, $2,398,765. So you see it's a 3.6% increase over what we received in January last year. And the year-to-date earned of $13,059,000, that's a 2.1% increase, but the year-to-date received, which includes all of the payments, even those that were really earned in 24-25, basically flat, up 0.1% from where we were last year. Just a note, we did meet with HDL, our sales tax consultants today, and they are estimating for the year 25-26 that at the end of the year we'll be down about 0.1% from where we were last year. So they're estimating a slowdown. I can't speak to exactly how or why it'll happen, but that is the estimate. And they expect in 26-27 to see an increase of about 1.9%. So we'll be back positive is the estimate for next year. All right, the December expenses, $4,819,000. The largest portion of that is the contributions to other governments. Those are the Go Sonoma Roads and Go Sonoma Transit payments that are made to the partner agencies, the cities, as well as the transit providers. And then there was $60,379 in staff time. All right, now we're moving on to Measure M, a lot less.
I have a question.
Sure.
The staff time over there, the 60,000, is it all from Go Sonoma or is it from both, Measure M and Go Sonoma?
This is Go Sonoma. Measure M has its own staff time.
Separate.
Yep, separate.
Okay.
And I will report on that when we get to
Okay,
the Measure M
thank
line.
you.
Okay, so revenues for Measure M, $803,267. And the year-to-date revenues are now $1,671,064. And the year-to-date, or the month expenses, $72,310. As I said, a quiet month, with year-to-date expenses now $1,952,000 and a cash balance of $78,379,869.
Where do the revenues come from?
We'll get to that on this slide. It's almost entirely interest on that $80 million, as well as a few small reimbursements from MTC for reimbursable projects on the Marin Sonoma Narrows. All right, and the December expenses of $72,000, $39,000 of that was staff time associated with Measure M projects. And then $25,600 were consulting services for Measure M.
So the staff time, is it like, how do you split it? Is it actual hours staff spend on each project?
Yeah, so we budget during the budget process of the year. Staff are allocated staff time to spend on, this much time working on programming for this road project. So it's based on the specific projects and general tasks for those, and we fill them in time cards.
Thank you.
All right, and that's the end of the presentation, unless there's any questions.
I'll bet there are. David has one.
Well, you've given those two staff times, it's 60,000 and close to 40,000, so that's 100,000. Times 12 months. That's the expected rate to continue now when Measure M is gone. And is staff time for Go Sonoma going to be?
I would think that we would need to look back. I would need to look on my chart. We do budget out for the year. So if we look at the annual budget, we could figure
There's already a budget for what's going to come out of Go Sonoma.
Yes. So I don't know offhand whether this was a representative month or a little high or a little low, but we do budget for the year in advance for Measure M and Go Sonoma, and those would probably be similar.
And Measure M is going to continue to have expenses for how long?
Measure M will continue to have expenses, but a lot of the Measure M admin expenses, that Measure M admin fund is going to be completely expended. So there'll be more Measure M project expenses going forward.
Tom?
Yeah, thank you, Brenton. I appreciate the addition of the loan information in this report. You mentioned that this is the first month that we've finally dispersed the pass-through funds to the transit agencies. And what I'm curious about is, how are we going to track that? I know that they're going to come before us again with a Go Sonoma report on how that project, how those funds are being spent. But I vaguely remember that there was an extra bus line planned for Sonoma Valley. I'm not sure that ever has materialized yet. If they're, now that you're finally spending the money, maybe we might expect that to materialize. Those are the kinds of things I'm trying to pay attention to from my jurisdiction's perspective.
I may have misspoke. This is actually the second Go Sonoma Roads and Go Sonoma Transit program, but the first one included some of the dollars from last year. So this was the one that was entirely this year's funding.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
So second payment. But these Go Sonoma Roads and Transit programs, I don't think would be applied to what you're talking about with the addition of new lines. That would probably be more David's question of how things are being programmed.
I'm not asking you to answer that right now, but it's something I'm thinking about and feeling the urgency to report that back to my city of Sonoma, for example. And what I do say is that we've doubled the amount of tax money that's going to buses in the county. So we're hoping that we're going to be able to see that improvement locally, not just be absorbed by backfilling, lower ridership or something like that.
No, the Go Sonoma Roads and Transits they're these apportionment programs that are done on a strict population and road mileage based formula that was set, and it will always be apportioned by that formula.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I can't remember on the Hearn Avenue what our portion was. Was it Measure M or was it Go Sonoma or was it a combination of the two?
It's
Measure M.
Oh, yes, you're right.
Measure M.
I believe so. I believe that.
So if in fact we get some money back from that because it went under budget, that 78 million will go, let's say you got $2 million back, it would go up to 80 million.
Hmm.
It goes back to streets and roads.
Yeah.
Goes to streets and roads, not
Streets.
No,
Right.
okay. Okay, thank you.
But my question, do we get the money back or the city will get the money back?
Well, both would get it back,
Yeah.
right?
Depending on which Hearn project it is, if it's the one I don't want to speak too soon, but if it's the one I'm thinking of, most of the money has come from Measure M so far. So if there was that much overage and we are due $2 million back, most of it would be Measure M dollars.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, so we have an agreement with the city for their funding contribution to the Hearn Avenue interchange. The gist of the agreement is they are the last dollar in, the first dollar out. So we are working with Caltrans right now to reconcile all the previous expenditures and any ongoing expenditures. But the gist of it is We have essentially drawn down all the Measure M funds on the project. We are going to be starting to invoice the city for their share of the project as we get the last invoices from Caltrans. We've paid all the invoices through November at this point, which is the majority of the project expenditures, but we will have some costs going forward. And then over the next couple of years, as we work with Caltrans to close it out, we'll know how much savings we have come back to Measure M, if any, and how much savings will go back to the city, along with the other state funding sources as well. So we'll have that answer for you probably in a couple of years.
Yeah, that's what I was going, about 2 years, do you think, to iron all that out?
Yeah, probably 2 or 3 years.
Okay. Was there another question over
I
here?
asked the question. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
Draft comprehensive transportation plan. Here we go,
Good afternoon,
Chris.
everyone. Good to see you all. Chris Barney, Director of Planning with SCTCA. So I know a number of you have been through 1, 2, 3, 4 cycles of our comprehensive transportation plan update. So I'm excited to be able to present on our draft update for this transportation plan. So the tagline for our new plan is Sonoma Moves 2050. So let's actually get into it. So I want to just start with a brief description of what the CTP is. So I'll start from the bottom here. It really outlines a vision for where we want to go in the future, how we want our transportation system to look, and different principles and goals that we can set to try and get there. So it's also very important as a funding prioritization document, and it identifies priority transportation projects, programs, and policies. So a major component of the plan is a list of transportation projects that are submitted by the local jurisdiction. So there are 327 major projects in the plan. So those are all listed out in the appendix, and there's a searchable version of that on the project website as well. So if you want to filter or sort by jurisdiction or different project sites, that tool is available. It makes it a little bit easier to navigate those 300 plus projects. It also helps guide future transportation funding and long-term planning. So we're statutorily required to have a document like this to help guide our funding decisions, and it feeds into the regional transportation plan as well at the Bay Area level. And it's a reference document as well. So it includes a wealth of information on our current transportation system, demographics, who lives in Sonoma County, how they're traveling, things like that. So hopefully it's a useful document for you all. I know we refer to it a lot in our other planning and other activities, and it's a resource for our local partners as well at the jurisdiction level. So as I said before, we've been doing this for a number of years, and the current comprehensive transportation plan builds heavily on our last 2 plans that were released in 2016 and 2021. So this plan has been more of a technical update, really focusing on updating that project list and making sure it's still current and reflects the priorities of our local jurisdictions. And we've also refreshed all that reference information and data going into the plan. And a number of things, big things have actually happened since we released our last CTP. That was released in 2021. We did a lot of that work during the pandemic. So we've tried to take a closer look at how things have changed since the pandemic. So these are the major focus areas for this update. We refreshed our public outreach. So we're out in the community at least once in each jurisdiction in Sonoma County. We also hosted an online survey. And one thing we did as part of this plan, and I believe I talked about this early on when we were kicking this off, we took a look at other planning efforts and surveys that had occurred in recent days here in Sonoma County to make sure we are starting from a solid foundation for our outreach. And every time we go out into the community, we talk to people, and a lot of times they say, I already told you guys 5 years ago what I think, or 2 years ago. So we want to be building on what we've heard in the past. So that was a focus of this outreach effort. We also took a look at our goals, and one focus of this plan was to look on progress that we've made in the last 5 years. So the plan includes a discussion of that. We also refreshed the performance analysis. So again, looking out to the future and where we think we'll be in the future as well, and tying that to the goals and vision. We updated the reference section, so there are lots of pages of that in the plan. So hopefully that's interesting and useful. We updated the project list, so we worked very closely with local agencies to take projects off that have been completed or that are no longer priorities, add new priority projects, and update project information when that's appropriate. And one thing we'll be doing this summer is mapping out short-term implementation actions. So really building on the rest of the team's work on the SCTCA funding program cycle 2 and looking at actions, policies, and things we can do in the next 5 to 10 years. And I would mention the planning horizon for the CTPs, the next 25 to 30 years. So it's really looking out to the year 2050. But we think it's important to think about the next short term as well. So here's a look at what we've been working on for the past couple years. So public outreach is there at the top. We've been working on that throughout the entire process. We checked in early on the vision and goals and reported out in a number of different metric areas on where we're at, right? Where's our road condition? Where's our VMT and greenhouse gas emissions? What's congestion looking like? So we did that early on to level set where we're at. We also collected a lot of new data and worked on that performance assessment. So that's been done over the last year and a half. We've been updating the project, it seems like, for the entire time. So we issued a call for projects early on, worked with our jurisdictions to refresh that project list. David and his team issued the call for projects for SCTCA funding program cycle 2 in the summer of last year. Project scoring will be happening this spring. And then we'll use the results of that to develop that 10-year implementation plan this summer. So we'll bring that back to you once that's done. And then we've taken all of this work and information and used it to draft the actual draft plan, which is available for review now. And we're looking at receiving comments through March 23rd and using comments on the draft to develop the final CTP. So let's move on to the vision and goals. So this is something that we worked pretty extensively with our board of directors and committees to develop as part of our last CTP. Early on, we checked in with our board to make sure this is still consistent and current with their thinking. And we feel it's still in a good place right now. So we're going with our vision and goals that we developed as part of our last plan. So our vision is really about connection. So connecting people with where they want to go, connecting them to job locations, family members, schools, things like that, and moving towards a zero emissions transportation network. And then along with that, to guide our work, we're prioritizing safety, equity, and quality of life. So really focusing on getting people where they want to go. So our CTP goals that are helping us move towards that vision are, again, focused on our transportation system and, again, making it really improving those connections with where people want to go, making sure it's reliable. That's very important. If you can't get to where you want to go reliably, our transportation system's failing, right? So one thing we've heard over and over again out in the community is safety is a major issue. And if our transportation system isn't safe, people don't feel connected and are having trouble getting around. Also very important to maintain what we have. So we have a huge resource in our transportation system and want to make sure that it's working well and maintained over time. We're also focused on not only just the community as a whole, the countywide system, but individual neighborhoods and communities, and making sure our transportation system works at that bigger scale, getting to people throughout the county, but also to where they want to get to within communities and neighborhoods, and making it focused on places. And then as the Climate Protection Authority, we're focused on moving towards a zero emissions transportation system as well. So providing opportunities for different ways of getting around that are clean and that improve health and improve people's quality of life. So just a quick look at what's in the plan. These are the different chapters. So 7 chapters right now, a lot of different information in there, and I'll walk through those each very briefly. So starting with our outreach approach, we took a 3-pronged approach in developing and collecting outreach as part of this plan. So I mentioned that we reviewed recent planning and outreach documents as part of that. That was one of the first things we did. You can see that word cloud down on the bottom right there. And these are the types of themes that came out of that review. Things like safety, maintaining our system. It costs too much to travel. It takes too long. Support for biking, transit, walking, filling potholes, and having a better transportation system. So we use that to develop our outreach materials to go out and talk to people in the community. Another thing we did is we looked at past comprehensive transportation plans, Measure M outreach and surveys, and Go Sonoma surveys, and use that to develop our outreach materials as well. And you can see a chart from one of our past surveys up here, also outlining major top issues with our transportation system. Things like it takes too long, harms our environment, needs to be maintained, right? We're seeing themes here, costs too much, isn't safe, and people are unsure about how to get around. So we used this information, and then we went out into the community and talked to people about what their priorities were. And I'll kind of summarize what we saw in this next slide. So in this new batch of outreach, the major themes that we were hearing from people is support for prioritizing public transit and active transportation. Again, focusing on making travel safer, improving transit reliability and access to stations. There was support for electric vehicles as long as there are better charging options and incentives. There's interest in e-bikes, a little trepidation as well with e-bikes and shared mobility options, but a lot of interest in seeing how those could work in our communities, focusing on making transportation equitable. And we heard that congestion is still an issue, particularly in rural issues, and that impacts those communities very harshly in some cases. So looking at the new outreach and the outreach that we've seen in the past, these are the top 5 themes we saw in outreach. People want to get around quicker and more efficiently. They want cleaner transportation options. They want to be safe, right? Transportation should also cost less, and we need to maintain what we have across the board. So the next chapter really digs into Sonoma County today and how we see it changing over time. So a lot of this information we've talked about before. So we pulled pretty heavily from our travel behavior studies, which basically just outlines how people are getting around in Sonoma County. So there's a lot of information. I encourage you to dig into that if you're interested. But just a few themes that we're seeing, pretty slow growth here in Sonoma County over the next 25 to 30 years. So slower than we've seen in the past, but we expect the population to age. And most of the people that live here work here and travel in Sonoma County. So not a ton of external commuting in and out. So we also have a very robust section on the current transportation system, including number of road miles, road condition, summary of active transportation statistics, and current and planned facilities, a discussion of the rail and bus system, and then looking at emerging technologies as well, and how they could help us achieve our goals and change transportation in Sonoma County. So a lot of information in there. Encourage you to skim through and see if anything piques your interest in that chapter. And then moving on to the project list. So as I mentioned before, over 300 projects in the CTP with an estimated project need or cost of $17 billion, with just under $5 billion identified. So pretty large unfunded need in that project list. Here are the top 5 projects on that list. There are a couple State Route 37 projects on there, smart operations and east-west rail capital improvements, and then maintenance across the board. So the county roadway system is the largest in number of lane miles, so it has the biggest price tag attached to keeping that maintained.
Those numbers for 37, since Sonoma County actually only, has a tiny piece of 37, are those numbers our share or the cost of the total project?
Yeah, I believe this is the total project, but I will defer to David on that. He's the project lead on these
Same thing,
ones.
smart, how much of that is our share versus the whole system?
That is actually the whole system for Smart.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I could clarify the $4 billion estimate is our rough back of the napkin cost for the improvements only in Sonoma County.
Just Sonoma County.
So what percent of the total would that be?
The current estimate for the long-term causeway for Highway 37 is the range of $11 billion unescalated. So it's probably a much higher amount, and that's for the improvements all the way from US 101 to I-80 in Solano County.
Thank you, David. So we have some big ticket items in there and some smaller projects as well. So I encourage you, if you want to look at some of those smaller projects, dig into that list in the appendix or take a look at that online version. Here's a list of the different types of projects and price tags associated with those. So I would say for our project list, if the project has a cost of under $1 million, it's generally included in a category or bucket. So for example, all the smaller bicycle pedestrian projects in the city of Santa Rosa are in one lump category that basically builds out all those small projects for the city of Santa Rosa. And it points directly back to the active transportation plan for each of those jurisdictions. So again, they're larger projects in general on this project list. So you can see a breakdown here, how that 17 billion kind of plays out across those different project types. And again, you can dig in more detail in the online version and the version in the appendix. So looking at the performance assessment, this is where we look out into the future and see how we expect us to be going into the future. So it looks at things like pavement condition, congestion, crashes, what types of transportation modes people are using, VMT, and emissions. So I'm just going to highlight a few of the high-level findings of the performance assessment, and there's more information in the plan if you wanted to dig into that in more detail. But one thing that we see there is we have some pretty major transit improvements proposed in the plan. So that represents a 30% increase in service through 2050 if those are all funded, with a 65 increase in transit ridership. So a very large increase with those better connections and more service in that system. So we'd also see a very widely expanded bicycle pedestrian network and more accessibility and connections, filling a lot of those gaps. So again, I would emphasize that many of these projects are unfunded, so we need to fund those to be able to make those connections. We're seeing VMT and greenhouse gas per capita trend down, but are still pretty far away from reaching our goal of zero emissions by 2050. So some progress, but not at the rate that we really need to be going to hit that target. We're seeing pavement condition trending up, which is great because for many years it was going down. So we need to continue to invest in maintaining those.
There might be a typo on that little graph that shows a range of 5 for the index up to 62.
That is a typo. Yeah.
I think the 5.
We'll take care of that.
Like 50.
Yeah. Yep. We'll fix that.
Yeah. Thank you.
And is that wave in that bottom right corner, is that artistic license? Because
that is showing transit ridership dip during the pandemic.
Right, but I mean, it goes level and then it makes a change, goes level again.
Yeah, we saw
with a curve, which I'm assuming those are.
It's a yearly number kind of stitched together.
There's no curve going on.
No. Right. Yeah, it's an estimate in between there. So we're also seeing collisions trend down, but we are expecting a little bit of increase in growth and congestion, so that could rise. based on that growth. So we really need to continue to focus on Vision Zero, speed reductions, and making safety improvements in different corridors that we've been doing in recent times that have contributed to those collision reductions. We're expecting congestion and travel times to increase slightly by 15% if we implement the projects in the CTP, but that increase in congestion and travel time would jump by 65% without the CTP. So it does provide a congestion benefit. And then we expect household travel costs to stay about the same if we don't change anything. So something we
Yes,
can.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You know, the emissions, the slide before that.
Yeah.
The latest data that you have 2022, do you have more recent data?
For our greenhouse gases?
2022.
Yeah, I believe that's the latest we have. Yeah. Where our climate folks are going to be updating that this year.
Because my impression, they are not representative, you know, like for the current, you know, situation, because 20 and 22, you know, during the pandemic, you know, travel was much less than nowadays, you know.
Yeah, and with all of these data sources, some are more updated more frequently than others. So we're somewhat at the mercy of whoever's developing the estimates. So we are lagging a little bit on the GHG number. We hope to have that updated sometime soon. But yeah, I understand that lag time is frustrating when you're trying to see where you're at currently. But yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
Yes, I'm always amazed by your great trends that you find, and when you made a comment that says not a lot of commuting in Santa Rosa and in Sonoma County, it's like people work here and they kind of stay here. They're not really commuting to Solano County or to Marin or to San Francisco.
Mhm.
And yet, when you're looking at Highway 37,
Yeah.
it does seem a disproportionate share is being tagged to us for 4 billion out of 11 billion. It's like, how do you get to that point? I mean, if most of the folks are going from Solano County to Marin County, why wouldn't the heavier lift be Solano
Or Marin.
or Marin? The
So-
ones with zero growth for the last 50 years.
Those discussions are happening. So we do have a steering committee that's being attended by the elected officials in each of those 4 counties. So, that I'm sure is a topic of discussion on how those
I'm gonna
costs.
get
will-
my initials wrong, the acronym wrong, but the state has housing starts and they supposedly connect transportation funding to if you're carrying your weight. And it seems like we're doing pretty good in Sonoma County.
Mhm.
Marin, sorry if I'm pissing off any Marinites here, never has, never will. And so it just seems like they ought to be picking up in these discussions that are ongoing, a lot bigger portion of the weight, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Does it make sense if we, you know, as, you know, a citizen advisory group to have a recommendation, you know, yeah, because I think it should be based on, you know, the trips, you know, like in and out of each county, you know, like rather than, because what I heard, you know, $4 billion out of $17 billion, the total 11?
4 out of 11.
411, about 40% or so. I think that's too much, you know, mainly the traffic 37 is between Marin and Solano County, you know.
Solano.
Yeah, Solano, yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I should note that $4 billion is not Sonoma County's share of what Highway 37 will cost. That is just the capital cost of what it would be to construct the improvements between the Marin County line and the Solano County line.
Misheard you then.
So
Okay.
we're not asking Sonoma County to pay $4 billion. It's just, that's what the cost would be. So for the entire Highway 37 corridor, we're working as a partnership with Transportation Authority Marin, Napa Valley Transportation Authority, Solano Transportation Authority, SMART, Caltrans, MTC to try to figure out how we're going to pay for this, because there is no long-term funding plan for how you're going to come up with $11 billion. Well, we have to start somewhere. just like we're doing right now on the near-term project. So it's going to take a variety of federal, state, and local funding sources, but there isn't any committed funding from Sonoma County at this point that says we're going to pay $4 billion for our share. We're still figuring out how we're all as a group going to come up with those funds that would be needed.
Thank you for that clarification.
As long as you guys are going to stay on 37 for a second. I sit on the committee at MTC, actually it's BCDC, working on funding for C-Rise. And my question is, with the Highway 37, do we have people working with that team as well? Working on the project list to see if it can be folded in?
So, let me make sure I'm understanding the question correctly. Are we working with MTC on the regional transportation?
No, this is BCDC. There was a study last 2 years about what will it cost to protect the margin of the bay. And actually the number came up 150, but they just had a report 120. The budget was 5 billion. The follow-on team now is writing all of the projects up for all the mitigations and all the adaptation required around the bay and what funding is available to cover that. So I just want to make sure we're connected with that. We're participating in updating the database and actually influencing where the funding comes from.
Yeah. So I do believe that we have been affiliated with that project and been tracking it, but I'll need to check in with our team and see what level of involvement we've had with that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Do we have time for another question?
Uh,
Are you going to run out of time?
Sure. Yeah. Do you want me to cut to the chase here or just?
Well, I want to make
keep
sure everybody
questions?
gets their,
Yeah.
go ahead, Tom, real quick.
Yeah, I'll try to be brief. First of all, great to see this report coming forward at this time. A lot of good information in there. I do think that this committee does need to be better informed about the big projects that are on our horizon, and the CTP is the proper place to be doing that. So that's natural that this body would want to ask these questions. We don't have a way to really get that into this room, and you're getting all of it right now. So I feel for you. My general comments go to like the population growth estimates do not seem to me to be in sync with Plan Bay Area 2050, which says only 1% of region-wide growth is expected in Sonoma County. So I'd like to take another look at that, make sure that you have justification for those large population growth estimates, if that's really going to stay in the plan. And on 37 specifically, I did attend the last meeting, and I think I got this right, that after the king tides experienced last month, even if the interim project was completed, they would have still had to shut the roadway down for flooding.
Yeah.
So, and we are still shy of even getting that funded fully, and we have a deadline coming in April. So those are things that this body might be interested to know. I was surprised to learn them myself. And, people are starting to say, maybe we need to be thinking about contingencies if the money doesn't materialize, if adaptation becomes a more urgent concern. Perhaps we need to have some flexibility in our planning to be able to be prepared for that. And then the other big cost on the list locally is SMART, and that makes sense. But I've heard concerns raised about the clock face schedule problem, the fact that we need to, if we're going to have truly functional transit integration, we need to sync up with the bus schedules and the other services. And I don't see that addressed right now in the plan. I haven't finished reading it completely, but I'd like to see some discussion of that issue in the CTP.
Can I jump in? I didn't know we were going to talk in general at this point. We kind of cut you off because I had the same thought. I have to admit, I have a problem finding the link sometimes, so I didn't find the report till last minute. I was looking for a core piece in it, recognizing that our solution for the north-south movement is SMART and that we're building around that. And I think there should be a place in the plan that says we're building around it and here's the different ways that we're doing it. It touches on it because I just looked for the number of references to mascots. There's 17 references to mascots, but nothing specific that said, oh, we're working at this place and that we expect what the cost will be for those. I have other comments that are just general ones as well. Your funding section I jumped to immediately was really interesting to see where the funding is coming from.
Yeah.
It would be nice to have a pie chart that would say our expectation that percentage of funding will come from these places. Just an eyeball one, everybody can look at it and say, okay, I understand at this point. David and I care about electrification on EVs. We had a meeting recently in our club. EV drivers are really happy with where all the charge stations are. The problem is non-EV drivers have a problem, and most of them have to do with the fact that 52% of our population rent or live in multifamily. We need to solve that problem. That should be specifically addressed in here. If we're going to talk about EVs and electrification, that is the next big thing. We don't need a lot of stations for EVs because 95% of the time, those of us with a garage go home and charge at home because that's the most cost-effective place to do that. And the last thing was a different one that I brought up with Ross, and I don't know if it belongs here. We're electrifying vehicles. We are electrifying our buses and our transit. What's our experience so far? Is it cost effective? What are the barriers for us electrifying further? And I'm really worried about the cost effectiveness portion of it. I used to be in the bus and truck electrification business, and I tried to sell people all the time on, you're going to save a lot of money. Okay, are we? So those were just the ones I wanted to throw out. Sorry.
That's okay. Probably a lot of that goes into future meetings because we got to get through your report, I would guess.
We need a full meeting on this.
Mr. Chair, do you want to keep doing questions?
Sure, short, David, short.
Well, I participated in the city of Santa Rosa doing their update, and, during that process, they were changing from bicycle pedestrian to alternative transportation plan, right? But, and I would stuck multiple stickers on their maps for overcrossings of 101, but it isn't even a category in this plan. There's, class 1 to class 4, overcrossings over 101 is in neither one of these tables. And
So they will show up in the project list, but that's a good point to call those out.
and there's some kind of a big disconnect right here in the road user charges on the bottom of page 54.
Okay.
I'll give you that.
Thank you.
Goes from road user tax to a contract to build the Healdsburg rail extension.
All right, that's why we do a draft. Thank you.
There you go.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, I would just say on the forecast, so those are coming directly from Plan Bay Area 2050 plus. It does look like a lot, but in the context of the overall Bay Area, it's a tiny proportion of that. So, and it's slower than what we've seen in the past. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That's something we're watching too. And I would mention that the Department of Finance has an even slower growth rate. So it's something that the region's aware of, MTC is aware of, and so we'll keep tracking that over time.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let me just pull out some of the high points here. Just a few implementation points. A lot of our trips are under 5 miles. A lot of the travel stays in the county. Our cities have been focusing on building within urban growth boundaries. So we have a lot of opportunities here that we could lean into to implement the plan and improve connectivity. But we have a lot of challenges too. Our land use pattern's pretty mature. So what's built is kind of what's out there. So we're dealing with that. Travel in the county is focused on single occupant vehicles still primarily. Emergency events like flooding, we've mentioned flooding in the 37 corridor and wildfires really impact travel and our infrastructure. We have limited funding. That's a huge one, right? $17 billion. We have 5 identified. And we're expecting more congestion and increased travel times, and we're far from reaching our greenhouse gas reduction targets. So we have some things that could help, but still a lot of hurdles that we need to get past. So at a very high level, this is what we're recommending to help us implement the vision and make progress. One is to secure additional funding, right? We need to fill that gap somehow to maintain what we have, to improve our transit system and implement good projects across the county. We need to focus on equity by improving transportation affordability and prioritize access across the county. Really need to continue to emphasize building within our cities. We can implement trip reduction strategies to help take the load off our transportation system. Shifting to short trips could help if we shift those from automobiles to walking, biking, or other active modes. I mentioned that a large proportion of trips under 5 miles. We can make there's space for efficiency in our system. So if we can tap into that, that would be helpful. Just improving the average fuel economy of our vehicle fleet can help a lot with our greenhouse gas emissions. So electrification and cleaner fuels and higher fuel economy can help there. There are opportunities to shift freight to rail in some corridors. There are a lot of things happening in transportation technology. So if we implement those thoughtfully, there are opportunities there as well. And as I mentioned before, we're going to look at the next 10 years. It's nice to look out 25, 30 years, but what can we do in the next 5 or 10? So the plan is available up on our website. So it's linked in the staff report. So thank you for taking a look. Please send any comments if you have them. We do have a few little quirks in there. We tried to proof it pretty well, but love to hear just general comments and things like that as well, if you catch anything like that. So thank you so much for your partnership on this.
Great job, Chris. And thanks for being patient with us.
Yeah.
And not to piss anybody off, but isn't there a disconnect between what we are generating, our power grid that is available to electrify versus our goals of going more electrification? It's like we can say and try to do everything that we want to do, but if we don't have the available power to plug the hybrid in or to plug our EV in and so forth, what are we doing?
At the state level, that's actually not true. This last year, we reduced demand on the electric grid in California for the first time. And I know that's not the story in the media, but what's happening, and this is from Mark Jacobson at Stanford, analyzing this, is that there's a lot of behind the meter solar, and electrification is not proceeding as rapidly as was forecast, nor is building decarbonization. And we don't build data centers in California very much. Price of power is too high here. So really the grid is actually more stable and low carbon in California than it is in the rest of the country.
Except that if they build a data center in Arizona, they're going to suck some of our power out of here to go feed those data centers too.
It'll be
I
cleaner.
think it's worth.
It'll be cleaner if they do.
I think, yeah, I just think it's worth a really robust future meeting to talk about all of that, because if we're basing our goals on something that's not attainable, and I'm not sure that we are, then we should know that.
There was a great series that Stanford had every Friday for the last 2 years. They've stopped it since. And they've been covering that, and we can do it.
Yeah.
We
Good.
have the capacity to do it in the time
Yeah,
frame
the
we
Little
need.
Hoover Commission just did
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
seminar on that.
Thank you.
I
everyone.
know
Thanks.
we're over time. There's another thing. There's some legislation that's in its second year of development from the climate folks. That's going to be essentially making it legal to use your vehicle as a backup battery source. So if you take all of the EVs in California, let's just focus on California. If you take all the EVs that are already in service in California, you have a tremendous resource for battery storage. And so it's a point that people aren't even paying attention to, but the climate folks are in the second year. They chose to not bring the bill forward last year because it needed some more work to have a better chance. But when you see it on the ballot, absolutely vote for that. There's no reason to not have a resource that's already in place available to us.
Excellent points. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other announcements? Oh, we're over time? We're adjourned.
Hey, John, I have 9 times as much
Just a-
storage in
Hey,
my
they've been
garage
talking-
as I do on the side of my house. Battery storage.